everyone, welcome back to Alice on the Giant Bookshelf. Today I'm going to be doing the birth year book tag. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. My name's Alice, this is Harry my cat, and today it's Tag Tuesday, so we're going to be doing the birth year book tag. This tag was created by Criminoli, and I thought it was a really interesting tag ever since it came out, but I've waited to be tagged, and I was tagged by Emily over at Novelle Novels. It's finally my turn to do the birth year book tag. I've done a bit of research for this one. It's all about books and films that came out in the year you were born and in the year that you turned 18. So let's have a look at the questions and let's get started. So question 1 is, have you read any book published in the year you were born? And if so, what's your favourite and why? I have read some books from the year I was born, and I have also read the very famous book that has the title of the year of my birth as a dead giveaway. So the books published the year I was born that I have read from the list that I checked were The Wasp Factory by Ian Banks, So Long and Thanks for All the Fish by Douglas Adams, Boy Tales of Childhood by Roald Dahl, Bright Lights Big City by Jay McInerney, Ramona Forever by Beverly Cleary, and The Growing Pains of Adrian Mole by Sue Townsend. These are all books that I've read and enjoyed, even The Wasp Factory, which I know is a controversial one. I would say out of those, I do really enjoy the books in the Hitchhiker's Guide series. I can't remember if this was a particularly good one. I think it's the 4th book in the trilogy, the trilogy of 5 books. In childhood, I really enjoyed Ramona Forever by Beverly Cleary. My mum read us all of the Ramona books as far as I can remember, and I used to find those very funny and very endearing as well. But I think probably marginally my favourite out of these was probably The Growing Pains of Adrian Mole. I absolutely love books written in a diary style, and I used to really love, when I was a teenager especially, reading books that purported to be diaries of teenagers, and yeah, this was an enjoyable one, so yeah, that one. The question also says, are there any others you've enjoyed? All the ones that I mentioned I've read, and I enjoyed all of them. It also says, if you haven't read any in your birth year, what books would you pledge to read in the next 6 months from your birth year? I'm not going to pledge to read these in the next 6 months because reading is quite busy and I don't have any, I don't think, on my giant bookshelf. I will pledge to read in the next year maybe. Nights at the Circus by Angela Carter, because I've wanted to read Angela Carter for ages. And I also, when I looked up, it was a list that was like the top 100 books published the year I was born on Goodreads, and one of the ones that sounded really interesting in terms of a sci-fi book is Neuromancer by William Gibson, so I might give that a go. If you have read that, please do let me know whether you think it's worth a try. And let's move on to the next questions. The next question is, have you read any books published in the year you turned 18? And what's your favourite and why? From the year I turned 18, I have read lots of books, loads and loads of books. Some of the ones that I like best have been Kiss Cut by Karen Slaughter, which was the start of one of my, was it the start? I think it might be the second book, or it could be the first book in the Grant County series, which I've absolutely loved reading. Also The Apprentice by Tess Gerritsen, I think that might be the second book in her Rizzoli and Isles series, and I loved that one as well. Also Living Dead in Dallas, another book too in a series. This is the second book in the Sookie Stackhouse series by Charlene Harris. I really enjoyed that series as well. And not in series is some of my favourite books published the year I turned 18 are The Little Friend by Donna Tartt, which I think is an amazing book. I Am the Messenger by Marcus Zuzak, which I read only a few years ago, and that's really good too. Without Fail by Lee Child, which is from one of my favourite series of books of all time, the Jack Reacher series, and it is a particularly good one. And possibly my top favourite, because this has been in my favourite books of all time probably my top 10 for many years is The Lovely Bones by Alice Sebold. A very, very sad and harrowing book, but I really, really loved it, definitely. And I know this wasn't a question about pledging to read books, but there are quite a few famous books from the year I turned 18 that I would also like to read soon. One of them is The Carnivorous Carnival by Lemony Snicket, which is the next book in the series of unfortunate events that I need to read. I would really like to read Kafka on the Shore by Murakami, because I haven't read any of his fiction yet, and I've heard that that's a good one. I'd love to read Coraline by Neil Gaiman, which I hear good things about. I've, for a very long time, meant to read The Crimson Petal and the White by Michelle Faber, and I can't forget a book that is on my giant TBR that I have never gone near, which is Everything is Illuminated by Jonathan Safran Foer, which is also from the year I turned 18. So at some point I hope to read all of those. Question 3 is, of the last 10 books you read, how many were published before you were born? I looked this up, and of the last 10, 4 of them were published before I was born, so nearly half and half. And weirdly, a weird coincidence, 2 of them were published in 1951. That was My Cousin Rachel by Daphne du Maurier and The Illustrated Man by Ray Bradbury, both published in 1951. I've also read, in my last 10 books that I read, The Acts of King Arthur and His Noble Knights by John Steinbeck. That was published initially in 1976. And I've also read, in the last 10, The Sea by Iris Murdoch, which was published in 1978. So those were all out before I was born. Also, a part of that question is, do you prefer them? I did enjoy most of those books. I didn't particularly enjoy The Acts of King Arthur and His Noble Knights. The Illustrated Man was my favourite book that I read in February, and My Cousin Rachel I finished at the beginning of March, and I really, really loved it. So, and The Sea was a really, really good book. So yeah, wouldn't say I've necessarily preferred them, because I have read some other good books from later, but yeah, they were good. Question 4 is, favourite movie from the year you were born and why? So, to be honest, there's a lot of famous films from the year I was born, and I haven't seen most of them, but the 2 I have seen that I have enjoyed from my year of birth are The Terminator, although I do prefer Terminator 2, and Ghostbusters. So I actually have, like, terrible confession here, but I didn't actually see Ghostbusters until probably a couple of years ago, which is terrible. And The Terminator, I definitely think I have seen it all the way through, but I just don't remember it as well as I remember Terminator 2, so I'll go with probably Ghostbusters as my favourite from my birth year. And question 5 is, favourite movie from the year you turned 18 and why? Now, there was a massive list of films I've seen that came out the year I turned 18, because the year I turned 18 I was going to the cinema a lot. I used to go absolutely loads before I left for university with my friends back home, and when I got to university I used to spend a lot of my spare time going to the cinema getting cheap student tickets. So yeah, going to the cinema was a big hobby, and therefore I've seen a lot of films from this year. To name but a few films that came out that year, we have Spider-Man, Scooby-Doo, The Lord of the Rings: Two Towers, Sweet Home Alabama, Catch Me If You Can, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, 8 Mile, Star Wars 2: Attack of the Clones, one of my least favourite Star Wars films, Gangs of New York, 28 Days Later, Resident Evil, The Bourne Identity, Minority Report, Red Dragon, Chicago, The Ring, Murder by Numbers, Signs, Die Another Day, Adaptation, Panic Room, Men in Black 2, Van Wilder Party Liaison, About a Boy, and Bend It Like Beckham. Those are just a few of the ones that I've seen, and I would say that out of those, one of my favourites that I've watched quite a few times is The Bourne Identity. Really enjoyed that film, and I really enjoyed the book of the same name by Robert Ludlum, but I definitely enjoyed that first Bourne film more than any of the other Bourne films. But my favourite from that year would have to be Chicago, which is a musical. I've been to see the musical. I think I went to see the film in in the cinema at least twice, and one of the times was with one of my good friends at university, and we just loved it and loved singing along with the songs. I had the soundtrack. Yeah, I was pretty obsessed with Chicago for a while, so a great musical and a really good film adaptation of the musical. So yeah, that would be my favourite movie from that year. That brings us to the end of the tag, and I think I'm going to leave it as, if you would like to do the birth year book tag and you haven't been tagged yet, please consider yourself tagged. And it is a really fun one. I really enjoyed looking up and thinking nostalgically about films I'd seen when I was 18, books I'd read when I was 18, and so on. So yeah, great tag. I will link Criminoli and I will link Emily at Novell Novels down in the description below, so you can go and check out their versions of the video. I've seen this on many channels, and I highly recommend checking out other people's versions of it because there have been some really good ones. That's all from me today for this Tag Tuesday video. Please do give the video a like if you enjoyed it, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and do comment down below if you'd like to discuss any of the films or any of the books. Comments are always welcome, and I always try to reply to them straight away. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you all again soon for another video all about books here on Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. Bye for now.